Captain stood on the bridge of the warship Indomitable, staring at the display screen before him. 300 alien ships filled the space above Earth. They were massive, each one 3 times the size of humanity's largest carrier. Their dark metal hulls reflected no light, making them look like holes in space itself. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all channels," said the communications officer. Her hands shook as she worked the controls. "Put it through," said. His voice remained calm, though his heart pounded in his chest. The screen filled with an image of something humanity had never seen before. The creature looked like an insect, but it stood upright like a man. Its body was covered in black armor plates. 4 eyes glowed red on its triangular head. When it spoke, its mandibles clicked together between words. "I am Overlord Al of the Dominion. For 6,000 years we have ruled this galaxy. 47 species serve us. 12 sectors bow to our will. You are the 48th species we have found. You will submit to us within 72 hours. If you refuse, we will destroy every human in existence. We have eliminated species before. You will not be the first. This is your only warning." The screen went dark. Looked around his bridge. Young faces stared back at him, waiting for orders. Some looked afraid, others looked angry. None of them looked ready to surrender. "Get me Ambassador at the United Earth Council," said. "And someone wake up Doctor. Tell her we have visitors and they're not friendly." Within an hour, every leader on Earth gathered in an emergency session. Watched from his ship as the debate unfolded. Some wanted to negotiate, others wanted to fight. A few suggested running away to distant stars, but one voice cut through all the arguments. Ambassador stood before the council. She was an older woman, her hair gray, her face lined with years of experience. She had helped end the last war between nations on Earth. Now she faced something far worse. "We have 72 hours to make a choice," she said. "But I think we already know what we must do. Humanity has faced extinction before. We survived ice ages when we lived in caves. We survived plagues that killed half our population. We survived wars where we fought ourselves with nuclear weapons. Each time we refused to die. Each time we came back stronger. These aliens think we are weak because we are young. They think we will surrender because every other species did. They are wrong." In her laboratory aboard the Indomitable, Doctor examined every piece of data they had on the ships. She was a scientist, not a soldier, but she understood that knowledge was a weapon too. Her team worked through the night, analyzing the alien broadcasts, studying their ship formations, looking for any weakness. "Doctor," one of her assistants said, "I found something strange. The conquered 47 species, but we have no records of any long wars. Most species surrendered within days. A few fought for weeks. None lasted longer than a month." Leaned back in her chair. "So they're used to quick victories. They show up, they threaten, and everyone gives up. They've never faced a species that fights back hard." "What do you mean?" the assistant asked. "Think about human history," said. "We fought wars for years, decades. We built weapons that could destroy our own planet. We never surrendered even when defeat seemed certain. We've spent 10,000 years fighting. These aliens have spent 6,000 years making other species surrender. They're conquerors, but we're warriors. There's a difference." Commander sat in the briefing room with his Special Forces team. They were the best soldiers humanity had. They had trained for every possible threat: terrorism, invasion, rebellion. But nobody had trained them to fight aliens. "If this goes bad," said, "we'll be fighting on our own soil. They'll try to land troops on Earth and the colonies. Our job is to make sure they regret every meter of ground they take." One of his soldiers raised a hand. "Sir, what if their weapons are too advanced? What if we can't hurt them?" Smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "Then we get creative. Humans have always been good at that. We've won battles with rocks and sticks. We've won battles with outdated weapons against superior forces. We adapt. We improvise. We survive. And if we can't win, we make them pay so dearly that they wish they'd never found us. The 72 hours passed slowly. Earth's military prepared for war. Factories worked around the clock building weapons. Ships moved into defensive positions. Colonies were evacuated or fortified. Everyone knew what was coming. On the final hour, the United Earth Council cast their vote. It was unanimous. Ambassador recorded the message herself. It was broadcast on every channel, in every language that had used to contact them. The message was simple and clear. Overlord Al of the Dominion, we have received your warning, we have discussed your demands, we have examined your threats. Our answer is no. We will not submit, we will not serve, we will not surrender. If you want Earth, you will have to take it from us. And we promise you this, it will cost you more than you can imagine. This is our only warning. Captain watched the countdown reach 0. The ships began to move into attack formation. Around him, his crew prepared for battle. He thought about his family on Earth. His mother, his sister, his nephew who was only 3 years old. He thought about all the people depending on him. All ships, he said into the communications channel. This is Captain. Today, an alien empire learned something new about the galaxy. They learned that humanity doesn't kneel. We stand, we fight, and we never give up. All hands to battle stations. Show them what humans are made of. The first ships opened fire. Energy weapons tore through space, striking Earth's defense satellites. Explosions lit up the sky. The war had begun. But as the first human ships returned fire, something unexpected happened. The human crews didn't panic. They didn't try to run. They flew directly at the enemy, weapons blazing, ready to ram the alien ships if their weapons failed. On his command ship, Overlord Al watched this display with confusion. Every other species had shown fear when his fleet fired. They had retreated, tried to negotiate, begged for mercy. But these humans charged forward like they were hunting prey instead of being hunted. For the first time in 6,000 years of conquest, Al felt something he had never felt before. A small, cold touch of doubt. The first 3 days of war were brutal. Energy weapons carved through Earth's defense fleet like a knife through paper. Captain watched 60% of humanity's ships disappear from his tactical display. Each dot that vanished represented hundreds of lives lost, but the humans who remained kept fighting. Pilot flew his fighter through a field of debris that used to be the carrier Dauntless. His squadron, called the Ghost Squadron, had started the battle with 24 fighters. Now only 7 remained, but they had learned something important. The shields worked better against energy weapons than against solid objects. All ghosts, said over the radio, switch to kinetic rounds. Forget the lasers, use the old-fashioned bullets. His pilots obeyed. The small fighters swooped around the massive cruisers, firing streams of metal projectiles. The bullets punched through shields that had turned away laser fire. It wasn't much, but it was something. A destroyer targeted his fighter. He saw the weapon charging, knew he couldn't escape. Instead of running, he turned directly toward the enemy ship and accelerated. At the last second, he ejected from his fighter. The unmanned craft slammed into the destroyer's weapon port and exploded. The alien ship's entire front section tore apart. Ejection pod tumbled through space. He activated his emergency beacon and hoped someone would pick him up before his oxygen ran out. But as he floated there, he smiled. 1 fighter for 1 destroyer. A good trade. On Colony Antares, the farthest human settlement from Earth, they landed an invasion force. They expected what they had always seen before. Civilians running in terror, soldiers surrendering when they saw they were outnumbered, governments begging for mercy. Instead, they found Minyu. Minyu was a mining engineer before the war. He knew every tunnel, every cave, every underground passage in the colony. When they landed, he gathered everyone who would fight. Old men, young women, teenagers who should have been in school, anyone with courage and a weapon. They think we'll surrender, Minyu told his fighters. Every species they've conquered gave up quickly, but we're not like those species. We're human, and humans are stubborn. The troops marched into the colony's main settlement. They found it empty, no people in the streets, no soldiers waiting to fight, nothing but silence. Then the tunnels erupted. Minu's fighters burst from underground passages, from building basements, from sewers. They used mining explosives, industrial lasers, construction equipment as weapons. They fought from every direction at once. When they tried to surround them, they vanished back underground. The commander sent a message demanding surrender. Minu sent back a video. In it, he stood surrounded by captured weapons and armor taken from dead soldiers. "Come and get us," Minu said. Then he cut the transmission. Aboard the Indomitable, engineer worked in her weapons laboratory. She had studied the ships and found they relied on advanced technology for everything. Their weapons were energy-based. Their armor was designed to deflect sophisticated attacks. They had never needed to defend against simple, crude methods. "Doctor was right," told her team. "They've fought civilized species. We need to fight dirty." She designed new weapons using old ideas. Chemical weapons that reacted to the biology. Biological agents that Doctor's team created specifically to target physiology. Kinetic that fired chunks of asteroids at incredible speeds. Nuclear warheads attached to suicide drones. "It's not elegant," said, "but it doesn't need to be. It just needs to work." Captain approved every weapon she created. "In a fair fight we lose, so we make sure the fight isn't fair." Commander led his Special Forces team on the most dangerous mission of his life. Intelligence had located a command ship orbiting Mars. If they could capture or destroy it, they might disrupt the enemy's coordination. His team approached in a damaged cargo ship. The scanners detected them but dismissed the ship as harmless debris. They didn't fire on it. That was their first mistake. The cargo ship drifted close to the command vessel, and his 20 soldiers, wearing stolen armor, launched from the cargo ship and magnetically attached to the alien hull. They cut their way inside. The never-expected borders. Their security focused on external threats. Once team appeared in the corridors, the aliens panicked. The humans moved through the ship like ghosts, killing quietly, planting explosives, downloading data from computer systems. Found what he was looking for in the command center: information about tactics, fleet organization, communication codes. But more importantly, he discovered their weakness. Every ship reported to a central command. If that command was destroyed, the entire fleet would be temporarily confused. "We're centralized too," one of his soldiers said. "Why is that a weakness?" "Because humans can think for themselves," replied. "Our captains make their own decisions when command is lost. They wait for orders. Take away their leadership and they freeze." The team escaped with the data. Behind them, explosives destroyed the command ship's main reactor. The massive vessel split in half, killing everyone aboard. On a planet called Far From Earth, a species called the watched the broadcasts from the human war. They had served for 2,000 years. They had stopped believing freedom was possible long ago. But now they saw humans doing something impossible. They saw a young species fighting back against the greatest empire in the galaxy. They saw humans choosing death over surrender. An elderly leader watched as a human lieutenant named Sora fought her last battle. They had surrounded her base. They demanded surrender. Sora's response was broadcast across the galaxy. "We don't surrender," she said calmly. "We win or we die trying. Today we die trying." She activated her base's reactor overload. The explosion destroyed her entire facility and the 300 soldiers surrounding it. The leader wept, not from sadness but from shame. His species had surrendered without such a fight, but also from hope. If humans could resist, perhaps others could too. Overlord Al reviewed the battle reports in his private chamber. The numbers made no sense. Yes, the human fleet was nearly destroyed. Yes, their colonies were occupied or burning, but the war should have been over in days. Instead, it had been 2 weeks and the humans were still fighting. Worse, they were adapting. They learned from each battle. They changed tactics constantly. They used weapons they had never considered, and they never ever surrendered. "How many ships have we lost?" Al asked his second-in-command. 73, Overlord, and 200 more are damaged. 73 ships in 2 weeks. Against a species with primitive technology, it was unthinkable. "They're using suicide tactics," the officer continued. "Their pilots ram our ships when they run out of ammunition. Their soldiers detonate explosives rather than be captured. Their colonies fight to the last civilian. Every victory costs us dearly." Al made a decision. If humanity would not surrender, they would be exterminated, not conquered, not enslaved, completely destroyed. "Send a message to the High Council," he ordered. "Request the Annihilation Fleet. We're not trying to conquer these humans anymore. We're going to erase them." Doctor intercepted that communication. When she translated it, she immediately brought it to Captain. "The Annihilation Fleet is their final weapon," she explained. 300 additional ships designed to sterilize entire planets. If they launch it, Earth won't survive. Looked at the star map, at the tiny blue dot representing his home. "How long do we have?" "Best estimate, 30 days before they arrive." Nodded slowly. 30 days to save humanity. 30 days to win an unwinnable war. He thought about Pilot, who had sacrificed his fighter, about Lieutenant Sara, who chose death over surrender, about Minu and his fighters on Antares, still holding out against impossible odds. Humans had always been good at doing impossible things. "Then we have 30 days to end this war," said. "Alert all remaining ships. Alert Ambassador, and get me Commander. It's time to stop defending. We're going on the offensive." 6 months had passed since the war began. Earth looked different now. Craters marked the landscape where cities once stood. The oceans glowed faintly from radiation. The sky often turned red from fires that burned across continents, but Earth still stood. Humanity still fought. General stood in the underground command center that now served as Earth's military headquarters. The original headquarters had been destroyed in the first month. This one was buried 3 kilometers beneath the Rocky Mountains, protected by rock and steel and determination. "Status report," said to his officers. "Colony Antares remains under occupation, but Minu's resistance controls most of the underground," one officer reported. "Colony Tajin was destroyed completely. Colony New Sol is holding barely. They have lost 200 ships total. We've lost 80% of our original fleet." Nodded, the numbers were terrible, but humanity was still in the fight. That was what mattered. "What about the captured ships?" he asked. An engineer stepped forward. This was scientist Jinnah, who had been working with Engineer on a secret project. "We've successfully retrofitted 15 captured vessels. Their weapons systems were too complex, so we ripped them out and installed our own. Kinetic cannons, nuclear missiles, and some surprises. They're not pretty, but they work." "Good," said. "We'll need every advantage when the Annihilation Fleet arrives. How long until they get here?" "Best estimate is 30 days, Doctor said from her station. "But sir, I have other news. We've made contact with some of the species the conquered. They've been watching our war. They're interested in helping." Raised an eyebrow. "Why would they help us? That will punish them." "Because we've shown them something they thought was impossible," explained. "We've shown them that they can be hurt, can be defeated. 3 species have secretly sent us intelligence about positions, supply lines, and weak points. They're hoping we win." Across the galaxy, on a prison planet, a human soldier named hung in chains. He had been captured 3 months ago when his ship was destroyed. They had been interrogating him ever since, trying to understand why humans fought so fiercely. "Tell us your military codes," the interrogator demanded. "It used an electric prod to shock's body. Pain shot through him, but he stayed silent. "Tell us where your fleet is hiding." Another shock gritted his teeth. He had been trained for this. More importantly, he had been a human all his life. Humans endured. That was what they did. "Your species is dying," the interrogator said. "We will exterminate every human. Your sacrifice means nothing. Tell us what we want to know and we will kill you quickly. Refuse and your suffering will last years." Lifted his head and looked at his torturer. Blood ran from his nose and mouth. Several of his ribs were broken, but his eyes held no fear, only defiance. "You want to know why we fight," said his voice rough. "Because a quick death as a free man is better than a long life as a slave. Do your worst. I'll tell you nothing." The interrogator shocked him again, and again, and again, screamed, but he revealed nothing. 3 weeks later, Commander led a rescue mission to that same prison planet. His team had grown larger now, trained by experience and hardened by loss. They hit the prison at midnight local time. The guards never heard them coming. Soldiers had learned to move like shadows, to kill silently, to show no mercy. They found in his cell, barely alive but still breathing. "Took you long enough," whispered as they cut his chains. "Had to make you feel important," replied with a grim smile. "Can you walk? Carry me out of here, and I'll walk the rest of my life." They escaped with and 47 other human prisoners. Behind them, they left the prison burning and every guard dead. They found a message written in their own language on the prison walls. "We're coming for all of you." The rescue missions became a pattern. Humans didn't leave their people behind. Every captured soldier, every imprisoned civilian became a target for rescue. They had never faced an enemy that valued individuals so highly. They started executing prisoners immediately rather than keeping them, which only made humans fight harder. Ambassador worked tirelessly to build alliances with the conquered species. She met secretly with representatives from the, and the. These species had been slaves to the for centuries or. "Why do you resist when you know you might lose?" an elder asked her. "Because some things are worth dying for," answered. "Freedom, dignity, the right to control our own destiny. We're not fighting because we think we'll win. We're fighting because surrendering would mean we were never truly alive." The elder was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "They have forgotten how to think this way, but watching your species remember has awakened something in us. If you can find a way to truly hurt to shake their empire, we will help you. We may not fight openly yet, but we will sabotage their supply lines, delay their ships, and feed you intelligence." "Why?" asked. "Because if humans can resist, perhaps we can remember how to be free." Back on Earth, Pilot had survived his ejection and been rescued. Now he trained new pilots in the tactics humanity had learned through blood and sacrifice. The young pilots listened carefully. Each lesson had been bought with lives. "They expect rational behavior," explained. "They expect you to retreat when damaged, to preserve your life, to follow standard tactics. That's your advantage. Be unpredictable. Be crazy. If your weapons fail, ram them. If your ship is dying, crash it into something important. Make every death count for something." A young pilot raised her hand. "But sir, isn't that just suicide?" "No," said firmly. "Suicide is dying for nothing. Sacrifice is dying for something greater than yourself. Every ship we destroy is one less ship attacking our families, one less weapon pointed at Earth, one step closer to victory. We're not throwing our lives away. We're spending them to buy humanity's survival." Doctor and scientist Jinnah worked together to crack the communication systems. It took them 4 months of constant work, analyzing every captured broadcast, every piece of salvaged technology. Finally, they succeeded. "We can read their messages now," Jinnah announced excitedly. "We know where their fleets are going, what their orders are, which planets they're prioritizing." "More than that," added, "we can send false messages. We can make them think fleets are attacking locations that are safe. We can create confusion in their ranks." General smiled for the first time in months. "Can we locate there?" "Yes, sir. It's 40 light years from Earth. Heavily defended, but we know where it is." "Good," said, "because I'm tired of playing defense. The Annihilation Fleet will arrive in 30 days. We don't have time to wait for them. We need to take this fight to this home. We need to make them afraid." Captain listened to this plan from his rebuilt flagship. The Indomitable had been destroyed in the first month, but he now commanded the Unbreakable, a captured carrier retrofitted with human weapons. "You want us to attack there?" asked. "Sir, we barely have enough ships to defend Earth." "Exactly," replied. "Which is why they won't expect it. Every conquered species in history has fought defensively, trying to protect their worlds. We're going to do something different. We're going to attack them. We're going to show them that humanity doesn't wait to be destroyed. We bring the destruction to our enemies." Thought about this. It was insane. It was desperate. It would probably fail. It was exactly what humans did best. "When do we leave?" he asked. "1 week. Take every ship we can spare. Hit there hard. Show them that no place is safe from humanity. Even if we lose, even if we all die, let them remember that humans made them bleed." Across the galaxy, in his command chamber, Overlord Al received reports about the growing unrest among the conquered species. Sabotage had increased. Supply shipments were delayed. Some species were openly questioning authority. "This is the humans' doing," he said to his advisors. "They've infected the galaxy with their rebellion. They've shown weakness to those who should remain obedient." "Then we must make an example of them," an advisor suggested. "When the Annihilation Fleet arrives, we broadcast the destruction of Earth across all conquered worlds. We show them what happens to those who resist." Al agreed, but privately he felt something he had never experienced before. These humans had cost him more ships and soldiers than any war in history. They had made his empire look weak. They had inspired others to question his authority. They had made him afraid. And Overlord Al hated them for it. Admiral Wu stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the fleet assembled around him. 20 captured ships, retrofitted with human weapons and crewed by people who had nothing left to lose. 15 human warships that had survived the past 6 months of hell. This was humanity's strike force. "Course is set for the navigator reported. Travel time 5 days. "Make the jump," Wu ordered. The fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel. Behind them, Earth prepared for the Annihilation Fleet's arrival. Ahead of them, the heart of an empire that had ruled the galaxy for 6,000 years. On 15 different worlds across space, human strike teams prepared to launch simultaneous attacks. Commander led one of these teams. His target was a breeding world, where the next generation of soldiers grew in artificial hatcheries. "Remember," told his soldiers as their stealth ship approached the planet, "we're not here to fight their military. We're here to hurt their future. Destroy the hatcheries, destroy their ability to replace losses, and we give humanity time." The mission was brutal. His team infiltrated the massive breeding facilities and planted explosives throughout. The guards fought desperately to stop them, but humans had learned to fight in close quarters. They were faster, more adaptable, more willing to sacrifice. When the explosives detonated, 3 billion unhatched died. The loss was catastrophic. It would take the Empire decades to recover. Looked at the burning hatcheries from his escape ship. He felt no joy in what he had done, but he felt no guilt either. This was war. This was survival that had given humanity no choice. "1 mission down," he said, 14 more to go. A leader named coordinated with other enslaved species. Ambassador had contacted him weeks ago, asking if his people were ready to rise up when humanity attacked. "The humans are going to strike at the heart of the Empire," had told him. "When they do, they will be confused, distracted. That's when you move. That's when you remind them that they rule through fear and fear can break. Now, as watched news of human attacks spread across 30 different worlds, he knew the moment had come. He sent the signal to resistance cells across the worlds. Similar signals went out to and a dozen other species. For the first time in thousands of years, the conquered peoples of the galaxy stood up. On Prime, workers in the factories stopped working. When overseers tried to force them back, the workers fought. They had no weapons, only tools and desperation. But they had watched humans fight with less and survive. On station, slaves overpowered their guards and took control of a supply depot. They sent the supplies to human forces instead of fleets. On 7, an entire planet refused to produce food for the Empire. When they sent soldiers to force compliance, they found the crops burned and the population willing to starve rather than serve. 30 worlds erupted in rebellion at once. The Empire, which had maintained perfect control suddenly faced chaos. Special Agent had been undercover in society for 3 months. She looked enough like some conquered species that they paid her no attention. She had used this time to get close to 3 overlords who served under Al. When the attacks began, she struck. The first overlord died from poison in his drink. The second died when his ship's life support mysteriously failed. The third died from an explosive device planted in his private chambers. 3 overlords dead in one day. The high command panicked. If their leaders could be killed this easily, no one was safe. Escaped before they even knew to look for her. She left a message behind. Humanity remembers every world you've burned, every species you've enslaved, every life you've taken. We're coming for all of you. Pilot led a massive strike on the central communication nexus. This was the hub that coordinated all military communications across the galaxy. Destroy it, and their fleets would be isolated, unable to receive orders or coordinate attacks. 50 human fighters, supported by captured bombers, attacked the heavily defended station. The battle was savage. Anti-ship weapons tore through the attack formation. Watched fighters explode around him, each one piloted by someone he had trained. But they kept coming. When fighters ran out of missiles, they used guns. When guns ran dry, they rammed. One by one, the station's defenses fell. One by one, human pilots died. His fighter took a direct hit. His engines failed. His weapons were gone. But he was close to the Nexus itself, so close he could see the massive antenna arrays that broadcast across the galaxy. "This is Ghost Leader," he said calmly into his radio. "I'm going in. Tell my family I love them. Tell humanity I died free." He aimed his dying fighter at the main array and accelerated. The impact destroyed the Nexus completely. Communication across the Empire went silent. His last thought was satisfaction. One pilot, one fighter, one destroyed Nexus, a very good trade. Admiral Wu's fleet arrived to find it preparing to launch the Annihilation Fleet. 300 massive warships sat in orbit, being loaded with weapons designed to crack planets open. "They were about to send that to Earth," Wu said quietly. "We're just in time." The defenders outnumbered the human fleet 5 to 1, but the humans had several advantages. They were using captured IFF codes, so the enemy systems saw them as friendly until they opened fire. They had studied defensive patterns for months, and they had nothing to lose. "All ships," Wu broadcast, "this is our moment. This is what we came for. These ships were going to destroy our home. Instead, we're going to destroy them for Earth, for humanity, for every person who died fighting for freedom." The human fleet struck like a hammer. They targeted the Annihilation Fleet ships while they were still docked and loading. The massive vessels, designed to destroy planets but not to fight other ships, exploded one after another. The defense fleet rushed to stop them, but the humans fought with the ferocity of cornered wolves. They rammed when they couldn't shoot. They detonated their own ships when surrounded. They showed no fear and asked no mercy. Captain's ship, the Unbreakable, was surrounded by 6 destroyers. His weapons were failing. His shields were gone. He had seconds before they destroyed him. "All hands abandon ship," ordered. "Get to the escape pods." "Sir, you need to evacuate too," his executive officer said. "Someone needs to steer," replied. "Get out, that's an order." His crew evacuated, remained on the bridge alone. He aimed his ship at the Planetary Defense Station, a massive platform that coordinated all defenses around the. "This is Captain of Earth," he broadcast on all frequencies. "You gave us 72 hours to surrender. We said no. You sent fleets to destroy us. We fought back. You tried to enslave us. We chose death instead. Now you will learn what it means to face humanity. We don't ask for mercy. We don't give it either." The Unbreakable struck the defense station at full speed. The explosion tore through the structure, destroying the entire platform and crippling the planet's defensive coordination. Survived somehow. The impact knocked him unconscious, but his escape pod deployed automatically. He woke in a hospital ship 3 days later, his body broken but his spirit intact. "Sir," a nurse told him, "you're going to be okay. And you need to know we won. The Annihilation Fleet is destroyed. The defenses are shattered. General is negotiating surrender terms." Closed his eyes and let himself feel something he hadn't felt in months: hope. Overlord Al sat in his chambers on the surface, watching his empire burn. Rebellions on 30 worlds. His Annihilation Fleet destroyed before it could launch. His communication network offline. His leaders assassinated. His breeding worlds attacked. In less than 1 year, humans had done what no species had done in 6,000 years. They had broken the empire. A human squad breached his chambers. Commander led them. The commander looked at Al with cold eyes. "You're coming with us," said. "You're going to stand trial. You're going to answer for every species you've enslaved, every world you've burned." Al looked at this small, soft-skinned creature who had brought an empire to its knees. "How?" he asked simply. "How did you do this?" Smiled grimly. "You treated this like a conquest. We treated it like an extinction event. You fought to win. We fought to survive. There's a difference. And now you're going to learn what happens when you threaten a predator species instead of prey." They took Al away in chains. The ruler of a galaxy, defeated by a species that had only reached the stars a few decades ago. The battle lasted exactly 72 hours. The same amount of time that had given humanity to surrender. General had planned it that way. He wanted them to understand the symbolism. Doctor broadcast a message across all territories using their own communication system. Her voice reached every ship, every occupied world, every corner of their crumbling empire. "People of the Dominion," she said, "for 6,000 years you have conquered others. You believed strength gave you the right to rule. You believed fear would keep you safe, but you made a mistake when you came to Earth. You gave us 72 hours to submit. We refused. Now we give you 72 hours to surrender. Choose wisely. We have shown we can destroy your fleets, kill your leaders, and burn your worlds. We prefer peace, but we will accept war. The choice is yours." On 30 worlds, the rebellions intensified. The, inspired by humanity's example, fought with renewed courage. Led his people in taking control of their planet's government centers. When soldiers tried to stop them, they found that the conquered peoples had learned from watching humans fight. "We are not slaves anymore," declared. "We are free, and we will die free rather than live in chains." The sabotaged supply lines. The refused to work in the factories. A dozen other species found their courage and rose up. The empire that had seemed eternal just a year ago was falling apart. Ambassador worked with representatives from all the freed species. They gathered on a neutral station to negotiate the new galactic order. Some species wanted revenge. Others wanted isolationism. But all of them looked to humanity for leadership. "Why us?" asked an elder. "You're older species. You have more experience with galactic politics." Because you did what we could not, the elder replied. You stood up when standing up meant death. You fought when fighting seemed hopeless. You showed us that freedom is worth any cost. That makes you worthy to lead. Captain recovered slowly from his injuries. He had broken ribs, a fractured spine, and burns across half his body, but he was alive. More importantly, he could still serve. General visited him in the hospital ship. The want to negotiate told him. They're asking for terms. Laughed, though it hurt to do so. Terms? We should be the ones asking for mercy. We're barely holding together. They don't know that, said with a smile. They see that we destroyed their annihilation fleet, captured their defense stations, killed their leaders, and inspired their subjects to rebel. They think we're stronger than we are. Let them think it. What terms will you offer? Total surrender, disbanding of their military, reparations to every species they've enslaved, and human supervision of their disarmament. Shook his head in wonder. A year ago we were afraid they would destroy us. Now we're dictating terms to them. How did we survive? Because humans are stubborn, said simply. We don't know when to quit. It's our greatest weakness and our greatest strength. The Galactic Council, which had once been dominated by the, reconvened on a neutral world. Every species that had been conquered sent representatives. The came too, including Overlord Al in chains. General presented humanity's terms. The room was silent as he spoke. When he finished, an admiral stood. These terms are harsh, the admiral said. They will cripple our ability to defend ourselves. Good, replied coldly. You don't need to defend yourselves. You need to be defended against. For 6,000 years, you've been a threat to every species in this galaxy. That ends now. You will disarm. You will pay for your crimes. And if you ever threaten another species again, humanity will remember what we did to you once. We will do it again. They had no choice. They accepted the terms. Overlord Al was brought before the council for judgment. Survivors from 47 enslaved species about the atrocities committed under his rule. Worlds burned, populations enslaved, cultures destroyed. When it was humanity's turn to speak, Ambassador stood. But instead of demanding harsh punishment, she surprised everyone. Overlord Al committed terrible crimes, she said, but executing him would be too easy. Instead, he will live. He will spend the rest of his life watching the species he tried to conquer build something better than his empire. He will see the freed peoples prosper. He will see humanity and the other species create a galaxy based on cooperation instead of domination. That will be his punishment, to know that everything he built was wrong and to see what right looks like. Al was sentenced to life in prison, but was right. Every day he watched broadcasts showing the galaxy healing. It was a worse punishment than death. Back on Earth, humanity counted its losses. 4 billion people had died in the war. Entire cities were gone. Colonies were destroyed, but Earth still stood. Humanity survived. A memorial was built in what used to be Tokyo. 4 billion names carved in stone. Above them, words in every language humanity spoke. They died free. They died fighting. They died so others could live. We will never forget. Captain, now promoted to admiral, stood before that memorial with his family. His mother was there. His sister. His nephew, now 4 years old, who would grow up in a galaxy where humanity was respected and feared. Uncle, the boy asked, were you scared during the war? Knelt down to look at his nephew. Every day, he answered honestly. But being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing what needs to be done anyway. Engineer designed ships for the new Galactic Defense Fleet. These weren't warships meant for conquest. They were peacekeepers, meant to protect all species from threats. She incorporated technology from dozens of races, creating vessels that represented cooperation. Pilot had survived his sacrifice. The crash that destroyed the communication nexus should have killed him, but somehow he made it. Now he trained pilots from different species. He taught them human tactics, but also taught them why those tactics worked. We fought desperately, he told his students, because we had something worth fighting for. We fought with everything we had because surrender meant losing everything we were. Remember that. Technology matters, tactics matter, but the will to fight, the refusal to give up, that matters most. Doctor established the Institute for Cooperation. Her mission was to study the different species of the galaxy and find ways for them to work together. She wanted to make sure that what happened with the never happened again. The conquered through force, she told her first class of students, which included humans and even a few young who wanted to build a better future. We will connect through understanding. Knowledge is a weapon, yes, but it's also a bridge. Commander continued to lead Special Forces operations, but now his mission was different. Instead of fighting wars, he rescued species from pirates and raiders. Instead of destroying, he protected. It's strange, he told his team one day. We trained to kill, now we protect, but I think this is better. We proved we could fight, now we prove we can build. On the neutral world chosen for the new galactic capital, representatives from 47 freed species and humanity raised their flags together. It was a symbol of the new order. No longer would one species dominate. All would stand equal. Ambassador gave a speech at the ceremony. She was old now, tired from the years of war and negotiation, but her voice was strong. They came to Earth and gave us an ultimatum, she said. Submit or die. We chose a third option. We chose to fight. We chose to resist. We chose to survive. And in doing so, we showed the galaxy something it had forgotten, that freedom is not given by the strong to the weak. Freedom is taken by those brave enough to fight for it. Today, we stand together, 48 species, equal and free. This is what we fought for. This is what we died for. And this is what we will protect together. The crowd cheered. Humans stood next to, embraced. Former slaves celebrated with their liberators. It was a new beginning. But saved her final words for a small, private ceremony later. She met with Al in his prison cell. The former overlord looked at her with something like curiosity. "Why did you come?" he asked. "Because I wanted you to understand something," said. "You asked why we fought when we could have surrendered and survived. You still don't understand, do you?" Al said nothing. "We humans have a saying," continued. "It's better to die on your feet than live on your knees. You see, you thought we were like every other species you'd conquered. You thought we were prey. You were wrong. We're predators. We've been predators since we lived in caves and hunted with stone tools. And the thing about predators is this: we don't run from danger. We face it. We fight it. We kill it. Or we die trying." She stood to leave. At the door, she turned back. "You gave us a warning," said. "You told us to submit or die, but we gave you something too. We gave you a demonstration. We showed you that humanity will never be prey. We showed you that some species would rather burn the galaxy down than accept chains. Remember that lesson, Al, because if any species ever forgets it, we'll be happy to teach it again." She left him there in his cell to think about what she had said. Years passed. The galaxy healed. The freed species prospered. Humanity took its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as guardians. The human fleet patrolled trade routes, protected weak species from aggressors, and made sure that no new empire would rise to threaten the freedom so dearly won. And on Earth, in every classroom, children learned about the war. They learned about the sacrifices made. They learned about the courage shown. And they learned the most important lesson of all. Humanity was never prey, and they would never forget what they paid to prove it. The end.